program will begin shortly. Launch sequence. Activate. Warning, the following content is not politically correct. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to Transform to Freedom today, everyone. I'm your host, Sara Higdon, and we got a little bit to talk about. I don't really have anything to push today because I have a lot of topics I want to talk about today. And instead of sending you guys to my website, which you should go to sarahhigdon.com, I just want to jump right into it. So as many of you may have heard right off the top, we're going to talk about the elementary school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee. So if you haven't heard, there was a school shooting at a Christian elementary school that was about 9 miles south of Nashville. And there were 6 total people killed, 3 adults and 3 children. Now, I'm not going to say the name of the shooter in this video. I tend to believe that when you do, you sometimes make these people famous, and that we don't want to give them more attention, so that you have more people. It can actually incentivize other copycat shooters because this is a way that they can get famous even postpartum, and so I don't like to do that. If I had more of the victims' names, I would release those. They'd actually probably be scrolling at the bottom of the screen right now, but I have not seen those yet. It's all happening fairly quickly. So let's jump into it. Here's the headline from NBC News. As I just said, 6 killed, including 3 children. It was a 28-year-old Nashville resident who actually identified as a trans man. And so that means it was a female, which a lot of these mass shootings do not take place. Like females don't commit mass shootings usually. And so this one's a little bit different in that regard. They also said it had assault style rifles, which obviously, as we've seen, there has been no hesitancy to now start pushing for gun control, as we always see happen after these types of situations. It's kind of disgusting when you really look at it. And like I said, off the top, it's good to note that it was a Christian school. It was a small school that opened around 2001 by the Presbyterian Church, and it only has about 209 students. Now, this the shooter, it is reported that they attended the school in their youth, and so just talking about that, it's interesting because, again, like I said, the person ended up being a trans man, and it is an attack on a Christian school, which they attended. And so there's no doubt that this should be looked at as a hate crime. It should be looked at as something that, this person targeted this building where they went to school, and probably didn't like it very much, especially when the media likes to claim that it is, right-wing Christian nationalists who are the enemy and that are trying to, bring LGBT people down. There's this mass genocide, as they would say, against the LGBT community, which the studies don't show it. There's nothing that shows that, trans people are targeted for attack anymore. In fact, it kind of shows the opposite, especially when you look at the reasons behind trans people that are murdered are usually based because of, drug violence, prostitution, and stuff like that. And I mean, you have to mention that with the media coverage, what we've seen in Tennessee, especially, I mean, my first episode on here was reviewing a bill from Tennessee that was the anti-drag bill, right? And it was so full of lies, as we've seen. Tennessee has passed restrictions on, actually, I think they passed ban on the medicalization of minors, and they've been kind of a hotbed for a lot of these bills, which the media and the activists have claimed are anti-trans bills, which they're not, as I've showed you before, and actually, as I'm going to show you again later, they're not anti-trans bills. The media lies, and thus they stoke some of the fires into this. But when it comes to these types of shootings, like I said, they waste no time in jumping into this rhetoric that is, we need to take away the guns. We need to take away the guns. I've often advocated that school shootings are a school choice issue. You should be sending your kids to a school that meets your standards for security. That makes it a school choice issue. If we had armed guards at all of these schools, then we wouldn't have as much to worry about, in these situations. And so that is something that every school choice activist should be looking at in this situation. As well, I've wrote and I published a video, and actually let me pull that up. I can pull that up. Let me see. Yeah. Last summer, I published this video, the mental health video right here. But it's talking about why, Big Pharma they went from villains to saviors during COVID, and now they are pushing all these SSRIs. And one of the points I made during that video was that because of SSRIs, 40% of the people that are on SSRIs report to have emotional numbness. And when I hear that, I think that maybe we're not just numbing our emotions and numbing the anxiety and numbing the depression, but maybe we're also numbing our conscience. And so I think it's time that we start allowing some of these more experimental drugs like psychedelics and, even the use of marijuana as an anti-anxiety. We should be allowing people, especially adults, to be able to explore those options. The Right to Try Act should go for any adult who wants to try an experimental procedure, not just the terminally ill. And so I don't know. They have not released like what medications and what this person was on, but obviously they have gender dysphoria. And so if they have gender dysphoria, that means that they should be, there should be something else that they're going through, and so that they probably have some anxiety or depression. And with all the controversies online lately, maybe they couldn't take it anymore. And the problem, like I said, a lot of it's built on lies. But when you're in an extremely emotional state, you're not thinking properly. And I think this could be one of the issues, and they could have been put on these psychotropic drugs like that. And I know that there's a decent hospital. It's the Skyline Hospital there in Nashville, because I was actually stationed in Fort Campbell for 7 years, and Skyline Hospital is where they would send just about any soldier who was having like severe mental health issues. So it's not like there's not the care there in Nashville that they were denied. And yeah, here, let me see. Yeah, I'll start. Thank you guys for the comments. It's nice to not be talking so much during some of these, but yes, Adrian T says SSRIs can be helpful for people with severe depression, but they may be prescribed. True for other psych drugs as well. Absolutely. And actually, if you watch the video that I was pointing out, it Ariel Scarcella, who was my guest last week, she actually filmed it in there as well, because she's been very open about her use of SSRIs for depression. And she but she even said, like, she would like to try something with the help of a therapist, be able to go through like some psychedelic therapy, which has been shown to help people with depression and everything like that. And so, but that is an issue. SSRIs are way overprescribed. Like during COVID, we've seen just the levels have skyrocketed of SSRIs. It's been crazy. Yeah, and so welcome, Logic Rex. Thank you for joining again. Yeah, this one it's gonna hit the community hard because there is a lot to talk about. And I told you guys in the first episode, I don't want this to be a trans exclusive podcast. I don't want to just talk trans stuff. I started the podcast because I want to talk more politics. I want to talk about stuff other than trans stuff, and I can do like the reaction videos and stuff for trans content. But this week, the news cycle shakes out the way it is, and here we are, because we have 4 topics. Actually, all the topics today are in reference to trans. And I wasn't even going to lead with this. Obviously, this wasn't going to be my lead story. I actually had a good news story to share, but I'm going to share that, but it's not going to be until probably the end. So I had not heard that SSRIs cause this behavior in teens. I've just noted that it says 40% can feel can feel emotional numbness. You're right. This person was 28, and that's the thing, is a lot of people have been reporting that this was a teen. This is not a teen. This person was 28 years old, and who knows what they were going through in their lives to be able to go out there and do something like this. But from what the police kind of said is the person went to school there, and they found detailed maps of the school, and the police engaged. The police killed her, and because she was prepared to do more harm. So you're right. There is going to be a lot of gaslighting from both sides, because I'm already starting to see a lot of people take on the mental health aspect of this, which, there's a component to that. But it's going to be, this has not been a good week if you are on the trans movement, or if you're like me, who is a trans person that just wants to like go on and like live their lives, right? We just want to live our lives in peace. But day after day after day, what we're seeing is the extremes are getting bigger and bigger, and there's becoming no middle. And that's what I was watching it happen all weekend. We've been seeing the I'm done playing nice crowd continue to grow. And we've also seen trans activists doing, just acting in the worst ways you can even imagine. And just capped off the weekend is this shooting. It's absolutely heartbreaking. But this is interesting. Oh, so you said there's still a question if the shooter was non-binary and not trans. Now, I don't know, because the thing about that is that they had he him pronouns in their LinkedIn bio, which I've seen. So I'm pretty sure it was, like I said, a trans man. Yeah, so that's actually not the craziest thing about this. If you didn't see this, if all of this couldn't get any worse, the President of the United States, just a crazy reaction to everything that's happening, was going in to speak at a women's forum. I don't remember what the it was women's forum stuff, but he went into this, and this was his. I'll just play the clip because this was what he said.
From the White House.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Dr. Joe Biden's husband. And I ate Jenny's ice cream, chocolate chip. I came down because I heard there was chocolate chip ice cream. By the way, I have a whole refrigerator full upstairs. I think I'm kidding. I'm not. God. Ben, how are you, pal? One of the best guys in the United States Congress, Ben Cardin. Folks, it's a delight to have you all here. And who are those good-looking kids back there? They're your kids, all four of them? Well, stand up, guys.
John, we'll jump back in here. Considering the moment,
we were told that
the shooting that just happened left 3 children dead, 3 adults dead, shooters dead, and we were told he would be addressing this off the top.
Yeah, it's rather surprising. I thought that a somber President Biden would have come to the podium here and addressed the school shooting.
So, yeah, that happened. I actually tweeted it and said, I can't tell if this is a deep fake or not. It wasn't a deep fake. The next thing he kind of said after that was, he said, oh, and the reason why I bring the kids up is because there was a school shooting in Tennessee. But that's how he led into it. No somber, no nothing, just lead right into jokes and everything like that. It's baffling. I don't get that. His writers need to be fired, and he needs to, yeah, he just needs to go to the home. I'm sorry. Not sorry. He just needs to go to the old folks' home. Let me clarify that. He is not looking good. What does GLIB stand for, Justin? And welcome in. Thanks for joining. While I wait for that. But yeah, so that was, it's definitely a rough take, and nailed it. Insincere and shallow. Like, and then he jumped right into, like I said, he jumped right into gun control speech. So they have no remorse for what happened. They don't want to do anything. They want to they'll make jokes and then take more power. It is what it is. But so like I said, that I don't really know what else we can say about this. There's not a ton of data coming out here. I'm sure we'll continue to learn more. And like I said, I try not to I don't want to name who this person is because I think that it just creates incentive for copycats. So, but like I said, it's not been a good weekend for the trans activist group. Because if you didn't know, let me see. There was. I don't know if you guys know who Kelly J. Keene is. She is a radical feminist who has been traveling across the world doing these Let Women Speak events. Now, if you recall, I did a video, the one that says Let Women Speak. I did a video a few months ago talking about what happened when they spoke in New York. Trans activists, again, hammered. It was one of the worst displays I've ever seen, some of the worst behavior I've ever seen. And what people don't realize is this bad behavior doesn't move the needle. It doesn't help your cause. It only makes all of us look worse. And so apparently those in New Zealand didn't get that message. Apparently they're not fans of mine, so they didn't watch my videos. But, you know, I'm shocked, I tell you, you know. But here's kind of what happened. And again, this is just a little bit of it. This is what happened when Kelly J. Keene or Posey Parker got up to go speak at this event. Yeah. So this. All right. So I'll say again what I said in my other video. Kelly Jean Keene's not really a big fan of mine. And that's no skin off my back. I'm not a huge fan of hers. But the issue is I believe in free speech. Actually, after I released that last video, like 2 weeks later, the whole group, like one of the people that was speaking there that I defended in the video, actually attacked me on Twitter. But again, we have to call out bad behavior when we see it. And this is not the way to get things done, right? So when this stuff happens, like I said, I believe in free speech. I don't believe in violence. I think that to behave the way that these activists are behaving, it only hurts your cause. It doesn't bring people to your side. It only hurts you. It makes you look like a crazy person. And so, it doesn't stop their speech. Actually, it's the Streisand effect. It only promotes their speech. Let these women speak, let people speak, and let them tell you who they are. You don't need to act like crazy people. And what ends up happening is you make all of the rest of us look crazy. And I tweeted, actually, I'll go to Carrie's tweet. And so y'all know Carrie Smith was my first guest on the show. And she had this to say. So most folks I know who have gender dysphoria, some of whom call themselves transsexuals, some call themselves just trans, hate being lumped in with the autogynephiles, the fetishists, the incels, and the TRAs of any stripe. They're starting to fear backlash, and for good reason, because the TRA jerks claim to speak and represent trans when they don't. I pray for my friends and for all of us. And this hateful, child grooming, narcissistic death cult pushes us closer to chaos. And I mean, I agree with that because, but the thing about this video, and I was a little bit mistaken, because when you look at these videos, you see a lot of just men, and then you also see a lot of women. I don't, obviously you can't just tell if somebody's trans. We can't always tell. I actually thought that the person that poured what is it, tomato soup on Kelly J was not trans. I thought it was a biological female. But turns out it's an intersex trans person. So I don't know what necessarily that means in their specific regard, because it can be so unique. But they consider themselves an intersex trans person. And here's the thing, actually assaulting people, you should go to jail. You should be charged. And I hope that they charge this person because it's not okay. Again, we all have free speech. Now, if you watch that video, they would have killed her if she didn't have security. And that would set your movement back by about 20 years. This display probably set the movement back by at least 5 years. The displays we continue to see were about 5 years ago, from where we gain acceptance. We are losing acceptance in the world. We are. And so, like Carrie said, we don't want any part of that. Most of the trans people I know just want to live their lives and don't want any part of it. Why do, and I'll often see a lot of right-wing people. I often see a lot of right-wing people say, why don't more trans people speak up and speak out against this stuff? And there's a problem with that. And the problem is that it's almost like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't sometimes. Because if you speak out, the left hates you. And then the right also doesn't like you. And so we're in this sense of this little gray area. And so the people that ask me, why don't trans people speak out, are also the people that will attack me online simply for being trans. And so when a lot of trans people who live their stealth life in this stealth bubble, they don't want to speak out. They don't need to speak out because, they live this comfortable life and nobody around them even really knows that they're trans, or they know and they accept them for who they are. And so they don't see what's happening to the community every day, or they don't think that they actually need to accept the hate that comes with standing up and speaking out. It's really difficult to get people to come out there. And so I've started to see day after day more trans people starting to come out on Twitter, new accounts every day almost, it seems, it's a welcome sight. Because for somebody like me who's been doing this for a while, we need more trans people out here fighting this fight and making us look more rational and not like these crazy people. So that's what I said. And like I said, I don't actually, like I said, I didn't see actually a lot of trans people in these videos, and Carrie's right. I start to get into my head sometimes, and I honestly, I don't know, is the pendulum slowing down? I don't see it slowing down. I see we're already on the backswing as we see it right now. And it's almost like somebody's pulling on a rubber band on the other side. Like the right has got, the extremes have gone so far, like the right is pulling a rubber band. And as soon as that starts to move, it's going to move quicker and quicker and quicker. And as soon as it lets go, it's going to swing back hard. And I don't know if there's any stopping it at the bottom. There's not going to be enough of us to stop it. And so it's really going to come back and hurt, the average everyday trans person that just wants to live their lives. And it's sad because, obviously that's all I want. I just want to live out here, live my life, in peace. I'm always going to be probably a political commentator, but I would rather be talking about politics. I don't want to be talking about trans issues. I don't. Like, I didn't get in this to start talking trans issues. I did start seeing this start to happen in 2018 when I was removed from Reddit groups, but I would rather be talking other issues. I don't want to be talking about stuff that's so close to me, that affects me so much on a daily basis. Let's look at some of your comments. Let's see. Let me see. So Adrian says incel is a shaming label feminists use, but there are incels among. Yeah, there's incels among both sides, right? We see it a lot, but it's the term incel. It is interesting because these are the types of people that you would see in this movement, because especially when you start to hear like them try to claim that you're transphobic if you don't date trans people and stuff like that. Yeah, that's definitely like incel, and it's like rapey talk, you know. I don't like that. Ash says, I will never associate these activists with actual trans people. These activists only care about themselves. No, you're absolutely right. They do only care about themselves because they don't care about actual acceptance. They think that you can get acceptance by the use of force, and that's not how acceptance works. Acceptance works when you are, you're a good, decent person, and you show people that you're a good, decent person. You can't gain acceptance by the the threat of force. It just doesn't happen that way. And so you're right. They don't represent us, and I appreciate you saying that, but if you look online, there is a lot of this. Again, I'm tired of being I'm tired of being nice type rhetoric where it's like people are basically saying that they have no issues judging the entire group of people by the actions of a few. Because, and this is one of the issues with social media. Social media has, only elevated the most extremes on both sides. The most extremes are who you see on both sides. And so that just perpetuates the system that all trans people are just these crazy people that do this stuff, and it's not true at all. And you see it when you actually go into your everyday life. But most people have never met a trans person in their life because, actual trans people are quite rare. Or they, like people with gender dysphoria used to be like 0.05% of the population. It used to be like, it was 1.4 million in the US compared to 333 million population. Like it's a tiny number. So no matter what, mainstream society will probably perceive us as the same and lump us in the same category. It's possible the Nashville shooting could cause a powder keg to blow. I actually agree. I think I've started to see a lot of people talking about, bring back the asylums and stuff like that. I'm like, well, hold on. I think that we need to work. Our mental health in the country needs to get better, but I'm afraid some of these people are just going to want to throw all trans people in the asylum, because we have gender dysphoria. I mean, I've seen other people being like, you can't even the thought of wanting to transition is enough to say, no, you don't have the ability to consent to transition. Like that's actual thoughts that I've seen people saying online. And so you're right. I don't think this is going to turn out well for our community. And I think that they will. And this whole thing is going to be interesting. Now, the shooting, because it doesn't fit the narrative, I give it a couple days. I give it a couple days. I don't think it's going to be in the media for very long. We see that these things, as soon as it comes out, not in their favor, it tends to disappear. you know, because I do think that some in the mainstream media and on the gun grabbing side actively want it to be, you know, far right wing nut jobs that are committing these crimes in order to continue to push the narratives that they have. Interesting. Yeah, Skylo says the activists believe in conversion by the sword. They want to say Islam is LGBT friendly. That's actually a good point. I don't know about Islam because it's not obviously necessarily LGBT friendly. I have a lot of Muslim friends, but the countries that are run like Iran and stuff like that are not LGBT friendly, obviously. But you're right. They think that they can force people, and this is the communist mindset. Oh, psycho. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sorry. So this is kind of a communist mindset, though, isn't it? Because the communists believe that as soon as they get everybody, they have to. I mean, they have to force you into the gulags. They have to change you up, and then they have to. If you don't abide by their current standards, they'll kill you, and that's how they get. You know, and if you don't fall in line, and they'll put you against the wall, and then they can have their that's what will happen so that they can get their utopian society. It's barbaric. It's not right, but that's exactly why I think you see so much force and why you see them celebrating this violence. Like, it's accepted in their culture. Let's see. Big Gay Dave says, have you seen that sick pro-violence stuff Jesse Gender posted promoting the attack? I did not see that. I've seen like the person that dumped the tomato like getting praised online, and you know, all this stuff, and everybody, I've seen a lot of people, you know, praising or downplaying how severe it was. Like, even the Eklund Pride organization was like calling it like conspiracy theory. There wasn't really that much danger, and it's like, have you seen the videos? Like I said, I mean, if she didn't have her protection, they would have probably killed her. And so it's like I said, it's not right. You can't. I don't think that you cannot. Oh, they said it's all self-defense. Self-defense against what? Like, this person, again, words are not violence, people. Words are not violence. Words are words, and you choose how they affect you. If they affect you in a negative way, then that tends to be a you problem. And so yeah, it's wrong, and that kind of leads into the next thing. And actually, this is kind of ties into the Posey Parker situation as well. If you haven't seen, I mean, again, this is primetime Alex Stein 99. Same type of situation, but he puts himself into some of these situations. But still, it's, again, assault is not cool. Assault is not justified. You should be charged for assault. Like, words are not violence. Like, stop this stuff. But yeah, he had coffee.
White racist asshole. I want you to see these white racist heterosexual assholes.
Just like him. You look just like him.
Get the fuck out of What rights do you not have? What rights do you not have? What rights you have?
Protect trans kids.
Look at this. These want to cut kids' penises off. These are disgusting. They want to cut. They want to cut and mutilate children's genitals. Look, they want to cut children's wieners off.
Yeah, Alex. Oh, where was that when I saw that? Yeah, Alex is a true troll. Alex Stein, hit me up. Let's do some. Let's work together. I appreciate Alex for what he does. This is. It shows what this is. I mean, he shows people for who they are. And yeah, Logic, you are absolutely right. Interesting how the TRAs will claim words are violence, but then commit actual acts of violence against words. Whatever happened to sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. It's so true. Like, words are not violence. You can't. Free speech is so important because whether I agree with you or not, I think whether I agree with you or not, you have a right to say what you're going to say. And I should prepare arguments to explain why you're wrong. Like, when all you can do is attack people for what they believe, that just shows you don't have an argument. You don't have a better argument. If you are attacking, it shows your argument, like it shows your side is wrong. It shows because, yeah, you don't have a better argument to counter what they're saying. And so you have to resort to violence. It's like, I would love to, like I said, I would love to hang out with Alex Stein. He's the real deal. I appreciate him. And he shows people for who they are. Yeah. So Ash says, I appreciate how he was laughing at them. These activists have gotten used to not facing consequences for their behavior. They have. Like I said, that person that threw coffee, charge him. The person that threw the water, charge them. Like, they need to be charged. They need consequences because they are actually perpetuating violence. And going back to this school shooting, you allow violence like this to happen, and then you wonder why, when it escalates to somebody in this community now going and shooting up a school, because they think that they're justified. Their violence is then justified because you said something that hurt their feelings. Like I said, me and Kelly J. Keene do not see eye to eye, but there's nothing, I want her to be able to speak freely. There's nothing that they will do or say about me that would ever make me think that they don't have a right to speak and that they should be silenced or violence is ever justified. So it's really disheartening. But I want to switch over and talk about some good news. Like I said, this was going to be my lead story. I'm excited about this one because if you know, I've been talking about this for a little while now. If you know, I have been down at the Georgia State Capitol multiple days. I have been down at the Capitol lobbying for this bill for multiple days. Last Tuesday, Georgia State Senate passed the bill, sent it to the governor's desk. The governor signed it. And this bill, it bans the use of cross-sex hormones and surgery on minors. We were not able to get puberty blockers added into this bill. But I think the fact that they can't, prescribe cross-sex hormones at the age of 16 like the Dutch model wants them to do, like all the studies show is based on the Dutch model. I think that the bill will still have the intended effect. I don't know any doctors that will actually be prescribing the hormones on children. And so, yes, if you noticed, I broke the story in the Post Millennial on Tuesday, and then Brian Kemp signed the bill, I believe, on Thursday. So it was a quick turnaround. I was trying to get there for the signing. My people were in contact with his people, and we were working on that, and he just signed it. No ceremony, no big to do. He just signed it, closed door meeting, and so I wasn't able to get there for that. But it's such a big deal, and obviously I've seen so many people misrepresenting what this bill does, and saying it's going to harm kids. Going back to the mental health stuff that we talked about in the first segment, if a child or if anybody is threatening suicide because they don't get to, transition, or they're threatening suicide because of this, then they need to be taken to a mental health facility to get treated for their suicidality. You can't transition somebody. You can't transition somebody without getting the mind right. Okay? The mind is the most important aspect of this all. And if it's not ready to go 100%, then you're not going to have good results, because transitioning is not a cure. You are always going to have dysphoria. That dysphoria can be alleviated. It can be not alleviated completely, but it can be helped sometimes with transition. But you have to make sure you're not suicidal before you take it. Because for many people, for some people at least, I know, especially when you talk to some of these detransitioners that regret their decision and can never go back to the state that they were, the state that they wish they could go back to. So now they're kind of stuck in this perpetual state of trans. It's not good for your mental health either. It's not a cure. So you need to, fix the mind and get your mind into a good place. If you're suicidal, yes, like you said, 5150, somebody who's threatening suicide. The thing is, and I tweeted it out because I saw it happening on Tuesday. Georgia legislators, again, pushing this bill saves lives, and they were talking about, the self-deletion issue. And the problem is that's an abuse tactic. Abusers use that. People that when they, somebody is being mentally and emotionally abusive whenever they use that threat to get their way. And so yeah, and so like the mental and emotional abuse. I mean, if you're dating somebody and they threaten suicide because you're going to break up with them, that is a mentally and emotionally abusive situation. Over on Rumble 3am, 4P3L said, I quit school system shortly after watching autistic kids being funneled into trans. And it's one of the biggest issues that we're seeing in this whole thing, is that most of the young kids, most of the young girls are on the spectrum. And having autism going through puberty, from, if you watch my interview with Christina Buttons, she described going through puberty as somebody who is undiagnosed but on the spectrum. And it sounded exactly to me what gender dysphoria felt like when I was going through puberty. And so I completely understood where she was coming from. It's an issue. And this is not something that kids can, consent to. And there was one I saw, Psycho says, if kids can't get tattoos, smoke, drink, why can they chop off body parts? And it's not even just that. You know what's really really sad is one of the detransitioners that I know has spoke about this. They had a little bit rough go of it early on in life, and they thought this was gonna, and they had turned to self-harm in terms of cutting, and and so when they came out as trans and they had top surgery, it was like the surgeons were assisting in their self-harm, not trying to prevent it. They were assisting in it. And that's kind of what they're doing with a lot of these kids. And here in Georgia, this is actually when I went to testify, I had this in my speech. I said that in the state of Georgia, you are not allowed to get a tattoo under the age of 18, even with parental consent. Now, in some states, like Michigan and others, you are allowed to get a tattoo at minimum age 15, but your parents have to sign off on it. Georgia is not that way, and so it's one of those things where it's baffling that they would think that that's okay when tattoos can be removed. It's long and painful process, but they can be removed. None of this is reversible. None of this is reversible. And one thing that I also wanted to I tried to get added to this bill, and unfortunately, this could be what gets this bill thrown out in court, is that I don't think anybody under the age of 18 should be having life-altering elective surgeries. So a lot of these bills, they specify for gender dysphoria. What they don't, so they still allow, that young female that has body issues that wants breast implants at the age of 16, that's still allowed. But a young boy who has body issues, or a young male who has body issues and wants breast implants at the age of 16 can't, because of gender dysphoria. And so it could be from what I've heard, is that could be something that shows that this is discriminatory based on sex. And it was something I had in my speech to talk about. This bill did not go far enough in regards of protecting all children, not just children that say they're trans, right? It didn't go far enough, but it's still a win. We got what we wanted, and we revisit the other stuff next year and try to get more protections on kids. That's what we look at. But speaking of bills, I wanted to share this because I thought this was really interesting, and talked about it kind of in my first video about how, and actually in the first segment too, how a lot of these news places, they lie. They lie. And if we look at what Vice News, I thought this was actually pretty astounding, because Vice News, their headline, and talking about in Florida, there is a trans children were the beginning, the GOP is coming for adults. They say in the state of Florida, let's see, in Florida, HB 142 would prohibit insurance providers, including private insurers, from covering gender-affirming care, which can cost tens of thousands of dollars out of pocket. So I originally heard this. And I went to and looked at the bill itself, just to, again, like I always do, go look at it itself. But then I read this even more, and I think it's astounding that Vice decided to fact check themselves in this first paragraph completely. So it quotes the bill and says a health insurance policy may, that's key, may not provide coverage for gender clinic interventions. Who in the audience knows legal speak? the word may is key here because in legal speak, that basically says that providers have the option to not provide healthcare for gender dysphoria. The option. If this was an actual ban, it would say a health insurance policy shall not provide coverage. The difference between shall and may in legal speak is so key in these types of things. So, Vice lies. They haven't retracted it because I just pulled this up today. And so they are actively lying on their site, and they fact check themselves in the same paragraph. It's absolutely astounding, and they think that people can't read. And actually, I mean, the people on their side can't read because when I pointed that out on Twitter, people were like, "No, that means they can ban it." Like, no, it literally means that like the law cannot prevent a health insurance from providing it. So there's other like under like Obamacare and other laws, the health insurance companies are required to provide coverage to certain things, which as a libertarian, I think that your insurance company should be tailor-made to what you want it to provide. If people don't want their insurance to provide, to provide coverage for gender dysphoria treatments, that's their right as an insurance company, because insurance companies are private companies. Now, if they receive government funds, they have to, like, if they receive Obamacare checks, then they have to abide by the Obamacare stuff. But the key is, all this does is say that they don't have to provide coverage, and if the federal government tries to force them to, the state, this is a 10th Amendment issue, is the state can tell all insurance companies what happens within their states. The only coverage that the state can do this with is Medicare and Medicaid, but that's not what this is. So, Psycho, Vice and BuzzFeed openly know that their readers can't comprehend. It's true. And I have my issues with Vice. Vice used to be great when it came to some of their, documentaries across seas and everything like that. And I actually still think that they do good work. I'm just bitter. Well, one, because they lie. They lie on stuff like this. They lie to show that their readers don't actually know what's going on. But I'm also bitter because I was supposed to be on a panel and the producer ghosted me. That panel with Sydney Watson and Eli Ehrlich, and that it was a feminist panel. I was asked to do it, and the producer ghosted me. I'm still bitter about that. But actually, Vice does some pretty good stuff. I will say one good thing about Vice. They do good work when it comes to psychedelics and the war on drugs. I think that's about it. Am I freezing? All right. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. And so it goes back to, again, read the bills. Whenever you see something like this, you see that they are lying, read the bills. Because the bills never say what the media is perpetuating, or the media and the activists claim they say. We saw that with the drag bill in Tennessee, saw that in a bill in Massachusetts, and now we see it with this Florida bill. Heck, we've even seen it with my bill in Georgia. So always, always, always read the bill. But we're going to go over an hour today. I talked a lot, but I do want to talk about one last thing. Now, a little bit of sanity in the world of leftist politics. And again, it's interesting. So, Anna Kasparian, if you don't know, is one of the co-hosts on the Young Turks program. Very well-known leftist. And has been pretty has weighed into these trans issues and is usually on the side of the trans activists. But this weekend she said, "I am a woman. Please don't ever refer to me as a person with a uterus, birthing person, or person who menstruates. How do people not realize how degrading this is? You can support the transgender community without doing this shit." And of course, the backlash from her own community. You always see them eat their own, but the backlash from their community. And sometimes, and I actually commented on this, I said, you do love to see it. I said, if Anna doesn't bend the knee to the mob and apologize, this could be a red pilling in the making. Or at least getting to Bill Maher status. And I think Bill Maher is somebody who tends to be pretty reasonable when it comes to some of these issues. But it's, if you notice in the title, I called them the Young TERFs now because that is their name going forward. They are not the Young Turks. They are the Young TERFs, as the trans activists will now claim they are. But Alejandra AC, who has me blocked, by the way, so doesn't like me, which no skin off my back. It's kind of funny. I was actually in a Twitter space with 3 of the leftist trans activists that don't really like me very much, and they all have me blocked. So it was fun. It was fun, and actually, yeah, it was interesting. But she just said, "Oh, fuck off with this stupid made-up bullshit. Trans folks are having their existence criminalized in state after state, and you want to whine about this shit." It's not made up. But when you hear people, when you see the comments, it's literally like you think these people in the comment section, again, they know what they're doing. They think they're in the right. But they will tell you it's only happening in clinical settings. Okay, but why not use the word female? If it's only happening in clinical settings, then it shouldn't need to be happening anyways. It makes no sense. That argument makes absolutely no sense at all. And so it like you can use clinical definitions. Like I said, I mean, I use male and female. Whenever you hear me speak, and you see me do it a lot, you hear me say I use sex-based terms. So when I talk about young people that are, with gender dysphoria, we'll say, I always use a young female with autism, as we talked about earlier, or a young female, or a young male, or a male. I think that sex-based terms are fine. They are accurate. I think I've always said, I've done videos on this too. Like using sex-based terms is a good compromise in this type of stuff. We should be able to compromise and say that sex-based terms are fine. You don't have to use this stupid made-up language to describe people. It's dehumanizing. It really is dehumanizing. A trans man is a female, and a trans woman is a male. I don't want to be called a prostate haver. I mean, I have a prostate, but I'm a male. See what I mean? Like, we can use sex-based terms, but they want to. This is the queer theory thing. They want to erase sex. They want sex to be immutable. They want sex to be a spectrum. Sex isn't a spectrum. Sorry. But so that because of that got some attention. Senk is the other half of the Young TERFs. And he actually came out and said, if you think I'm going to tell my female co-host what she can call herself or what words she's allowed to use, you're nuts. And you don't know me at all. We do something radical at the Young TERFs. We let everyone have their own opinion. I know it's a novel concept. Which is interesting because, as Megan Murphy decided to point out, which is she's a radical feminist, pretty well known, was banned off Twitter for a little while, but She noted, you and Anna Kasparian called J.K. Rowling transphobic for complaining about the thing you both apparently speak out against now. You are both hypocrites and incoherent thinkers. Now, I didn't look at this video, but apparently, because J.K. Rowling is considered a transphobic person, which she's not, complained about this exact same thing and left Ader Live, including Senk and Anna, the Young TERFs, went after her. So that is pretty funny. But I go a little bit different. I think it's good to call that out and point that out to them. But also, again, maybe we have a little bit of grace. We call it out, but then we also say, if this is you red pilling, you should apologize. They should apologize for what they said to J.K. Rowling. That would make a huge splash, which I don't know if they did. I doubt they did, because I don't think they. I don't think they're going to go that far, because that would literally sink their reputation in the leftist community, and they are pretty far left in that community. But that's funny. Chunky yogurt. Yeah, I'm having fun calling them the Young TERFs. I think that's great. I think it's a great way to refer to them, and so I'm going to continue to do it. Okay. Yeah. And so a little bit of good news this week, right? I think a little bit of red pilling. We got bills passed in Georgia. But honestly, if you're trans in my audience, know that we need you to stand and speak out with us, because like I was talking about earlier, I'm afraid the pendulum is swinging back, and I don't know if we're going to be able to stop it. I started speaking out because I wanted to stop it at the bottom. It's going to be much harder to do that as these activists continue to harm our community. And so, like I said, speak up, speak out. And if you're not trans in my audience, I thank you for tuning in. I thank you for standing up for reasonable, rational trans people who just want to live their lives. It's much appreciated, because we're not these crazy people that we're seeing all over the place. And the fact that I think I'm doing these videos to try to separate the communities, I think it should show wonders. Like I said, I don't the let women speak to her. The people that are involved in that, they don't really care for me at all, but they have a right to speak, and I'm going to stand for their right to speak. And the crazy activists can, they are only harming our community. They're only making it seem like people should put us in a mental institution. Like that's the problem. And with what happened this weekend and then the shooting today, we have to stand strong. We have to fight. We have to stand out. We have to speak out. Speak for what's right. I don't think that, like I said, I don't think that the people from the Let Women Speak rally are going to give me some sort of thank you for this. In fact, they'll probably come into my DM starting attacking me again, but that's okay, because we have to speak truth. We have to speak truth to what's right, whether it's with people that like us or not. Like, if you know me, I think Matt Walsh's documentary Was a Woman was a great documentary. I think he did it really well. And I'm not really a big fan of Matt Walsh either. And so I think we can give credit where it's due. We can protect people. We can apologize where we need to. And I do apologize on behalf of the trans community. With the trans community, will say you don't speak for us, but I apologize to the people that Let Women Speak who were on behalf of the reasonable trans people, because those people don't represent us. And those trans activists need to realize that they are just creating perpetual harm on our acceptance rate. And not even just our acceptance rate, the acceptance rates of the LGBT anti community. Because gays and lesbians want to leave us behind as it is. So, and it's hard to blame them sometimes. I am thankful every day for the community that I have surrounding me. Gays Against Groomers has been absolutely wonderful in defending me, and they are key. I mean, they know that our voices are powerful when it comes to ending a lot of this stuff. But our trans friends, absolutely. I mean, we need to be standing up. We need to be standing up more. And so, I appreciate everybody in the audience. I thank you guys for joining. All of you that joined live, I really appreciate that. It's not easy to do a show by yourself in front of a camera, just talking this whole time. So I'm getting used to it, but I thank you all for joining, and I appreciate all the comments. And go follow me. Actually, go check out my website, sarahhigdon.com. Find all the links to all my articles. Support all the sponsors. You can find everything. You can find a donor box. You can find everything on my website. Follow me across all social media platforms. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.